It's a business as unique as the blend they serve. And today it was a typical scene as the hordes waited for their coffee fix.
The coffee is so great and convenient.
You can just come along the highway and just stop and grab one and go.
But now the future of the bearded cactus is looking prickly.
The potential of being closed down next week, it's really hard.
On Tuesday night, Maitland Council will consider what it claims are environmental impacts of the business recently been brought to their attention.
We're regulators. We need to act upon what regulation exists and we need to impose that regulation, and part of being a councillor is not always doing what's popular.
The bearded cactus operates on a legal loophole. According to New South Wales environmental planning policy, the coffee van is legally allowed to trade here. No DA is required for the business to operate out of the van because the vehicle can be taken off-site and utilised elsewhere.
Made the phone call to council saying, what are the chances of serving from our front yard? Yes, we got a yes.
Ironically, only 3 weeks ago, council used the stall to launch the Aroma Festival. It's also recently improved road markings to improve off-street parking near the premises.
Well, as you can see by the traffic, this is one of the major reasons why this little business is now in the spotlight. Now, it's been open since January and it's been going great guns, but the problem is now it seems to be a victim of its own success.
Back from the beginning, I had no intentions of the business growing so much.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Certainly something that we're not going to take our eye off the ball on. Wild dogs create enormous damage to a lot of the sheep and lambs, particularly, that a lot of our farmers in this area are trying to raise.
Never expected. Very humbling. There's some stunning wines from 14, and to come out on top is just an incredible experience.
Over 50% of the wines in the 2014 vintage got medals, either golds or silvers, and that's just unheard of. It's really tremendous.
It's a day where tradies gave their skills free of charge. The Newcastle Middle School for Children with Autism was the recipient. It all came about when a group of local businesses were auctioned off at the recent HMRI ball.
My whole idea of doing this, mate, was to take all the Newcastle tradies and Newcastle business and do something for Newcastle while raising money for the researchers.
The $20,000 worth of work was then handed back to HMRI from an anonymous bidder. The Institute then had to make a decision on where to direct the crew to. The school has 43 students with moderate and severe levels of disability.
For us to receive a gift of this magnitude would take me probably several years to put together a budget like that, and to have everything delivered in one day, that's amazing.
The group was making light work of the project as fresh paint was applied, air conditioners installed and serviced, and the major project was the creation of a sensory garden.
It's all coming together really great for the kids, and that's who it ultimately is going to benefit.
A gift like this, a beautiful new sensory garden for them to enjoy and spend time in, will be an absolute bonus. I can't wait to see their faces on Monday.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Tomorrow night, restoring hope where all has been lost. We visit a place bringing life and light to troubled women.
That's really the heart of this place, that we can create dreamers who will then encourage others to dream.
The incredible story of Destiny Haven in NBN News tomorrow night.
The Knights don't plan to try and go toe-to-toe with the Storm. They know that won't work. An unorthodox approach is what's needed to break down the competition's most feared defensive side.
Bedsy's got a couple of new players and a couple of attacking ideas for us, but we've all got our individual players that we're going to try and target and make sure we send a bit of traffic at them to sort of blunt their attack a bit.
Masters of the wrestle, Storm has the ability to control a match by slowing down the ruck. This week, the Knights prepared with a specific focus. The wrestle is a point of contention, but Sims believes there's no need for concern.
Do they do it legally?
Mate, I don't mind. I think it's great. I think they do their job perfect. I think they're a well-oiled machine. You just have to sit back and watch what they do because it's pretty amazing.
Meanwhile, the Knights' New South Wales Cup side has booked a place in the semi-finals with a spirited win over Newtown. The Knights came from 22-4 down, scoring 36 unanswered points for the victory. Jalen Feeney was man of the match. He scored 2 tries and had a hand in several others. Feeney is off contract at the end of the season. A hot day and the Hawks were sporting hot pink in support of breast cancer awareness. But it was the Tars who turned the heat up early, Brendan Jackson going over in the corner. Hamilton hit straight back, Rob Smith making the most of some poor defence to bring the home side level. Some sloppy play would put them on the back foot, speed machine Chase Hicks pouncing on a loose ball and wouldn't be caught. An upset was on the cards when Tim Riley crossed, giving the Tars a 12-point buffer. The Hawks showed some patience, building pressure in the attacking third, Gareth Tills falling on a loose ball to chip away at the deficit. Hamilton came out firing after the break, Sorelli Bainavalu skirting the defence to bring the home side back to within 1. They hit the front for the first time when Ivan Walkling sliced through some tired defence. But the Tars weren't done. From deep inside their own half, they shifted the ball wide, Chase Hicks fending off one defender, showing a clean set of heels to another. Hamilton responded immediately. A Rob Smith show and go appeared to have put the result beyond doubt. But some nervous moments would follow when Chase Hicks found a Tim Riley grubber to touchdown for his second. Hamilton doing just enough to hang on for the win.
Even on a cloudy day, there's no missing Rutherford's industrial area. But what you can't see is a smell that's been frustrating the community for 2 decades.
If I was younger, I would think I would be moving, but
Having said that, no, I think I'll stay and fight till the very bitter end because Maitland's worth fighting for.
While the EPA has done studies and individual companies have been fined, residents say the smell still lingers. Their biggest concern now, their health.
I myself have suffered with sore throat, sore eyes, skin rashes, asthma, and all of these things are the same things everybody around the area is complaining about.
After receiving constant inquiries, Maitland MP Jenny Atchison is now conducting a survey about the health impacts.
I am collating that information. I will be making it available to the EPA, and if there seems to be some facts that we need to put in front of the Health Department, I'll do that as well.
The EPA updated the community on its progress last month. Today it said it's done a lot of work to try and identify and minimise odours from the Rutherford Industrial Estate, and that over the next month it will continue investigations and take regulatory action regarding any poor environmental practices within the estate. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Newcastle Council is set to shake up community infrastructure funding with proposed changes to the Developer Contributions Fund to go before councillors this week.
Will actually encompass a long-term vision to renew our pool assets, our library assets, as well as including our major infrastructure projects like the cycleways and Blackbutt.
Including pool facilities, cycleways and libraries on the list of projects will give council another source of funding.
We can rely on grant funding, on rate revenue, but also on developer contributions. So it's really important that the plan that we have, which is legislated, captures all the community assets we need to upgrade in the coming years.
Development within the city isn't always met with open arms, but the fund changes could mean there's more of a silver lining.
Every time you have a development, even a small one, a percentage of that development, it's either 0.5% or 1%, will go into this pool of money that then funds the upgrade of community facilities.
Meredith Gibbs, NBN News.
Trying to give younger people a sense of the geology and the changes with time and the evidence of climate change that we see from the past. Also the history of Newcastle, so the mining history, how we've changed the coastline, the effects that storms have on our environment.
On a country road between Clarencetown and Dungog, a simple sign welcomes those who can't find comfort elsewhere. It's peaceful, yet full of life, light and energy, and Janina Pear is its driving force, its heart. The co-founder of Destiny Haven, the story of this place began with her own.
My husband and I were addicts for many years, and we were drug dealers in King's Cross. And in 1994, when our daughter was 13 months old, we found our way to a rehab where we spent 12.5 months and it changed our lives.
With the help of supporters and generous benefactors, the couple established the not-for-profit Destiny Haven on the 17-hectare property 8 years ago.
And we had a dream, even all those years ago, that one day we would also help people that didn't see that there was any hope.
Therese Clemens was in that terrible position when she first arrived 5 years ago. She tells her story in a powerful video produced at Destiny Haven.
My world changed the day I was abused. It started at a young age and continued for many years.
I've suffered
depression, I had an eating disorder, I have self-harm, I was in and out of hospitals, and yeah, so my world was a pretty dark place. I didn't think there was any hope for me.
For the first few months, she barely spoke, but gradually found her voice and her calling.
When I came to Destiny, I did the art therapy classes, and that's when I discovered that I could learn to draw. And then I started sewing the bags for Destiny, and then I thought, hey, I could do a pyjama range. And then I was like, oh, maybe I could do clothes. So I tried clothes and then discovered I loved it.
She completed a fashion design course and now has her own label and studio in Newcastle. Her creations are spectacular, colourful and whimsical, a bit like her life these days.
So this is one that I made for an underwater shoot. It's got all these butterflies on it. It's got layers and layers of tulle.
The 25-year-old is enjoying success with her designs featuring in glossy magazines.
One of the photos of this ended up in Vogue Italia, and it was a really proud moment for me.
She returns to Destiny Haven regularly, teaching others to sew and create products to sell. It's one of a number of cottage industries here that help support the property while teaching participants new skills. There's handmade jewellery. The garden provides produce for everything from condiments to cakes. And then there's Destiny's signature Belgian chocolates, also lovingly handmade.
Yep, so up to, okay, go.
It's all part of a comprehensive program.
Here the girls come and live amongst us. They become part of an extended family, and they learn to have safe relationships, they learn life skills, they get a lot of psychoeducation to learn about their own issues.
Janine calls them her diamonds and has even written a song about them.
I am a diamond, a rare and treasured beauty.
A professional muso before drugs took hold, she's forged a new path and still has big dreams for expanding Destiny Haven. Teresa's dreams are coming true, and having come from such a dark place, they're in Technicolor.
It's a happy world. It's a good world. You can work with colours. I can see colour now.
Creating dreamers, our dream is that one of them will catch the vision to take it further than we could ever take it. And isn't that what it's about when you're a leader, encouraging others to dream bigger than you could ever dream?
Third faced second as Hamilton hosted Lambton in the opening leg, and it was the visiting Jaffas who made a great start, Luke Remington with an early chance. John Majerowski was denied a goal by some desperate defending from Hamilton's Tom Davies and Danny Ireland. At the other end, Olympics' Ben Coyner forced Brad Swancott into a solid save. Hamilton thought it had claims for a free kick when Pat Brown went to ground, but the referee wasn't interested. The home side did eventually hit the front after 35 minutes as Simon Mooney's free kick landed kindly for Jacob Bailey. Shortly before the break, Mooney gave Swancott more work to do. Hamilton extended its advantage on the hour mark as Kane Goodchild made it 2-0. The visiting Jaffas hit back 15 minutes later with Peter McPherson scoring a valuable away goal to make it 2-1. Lambton went looking for an equaliser in the dying stages, but will now go into the second leg needing a win to qualify for the grand final. Valentine finished the regular season in third spot, but the underdogs almost grabbed the lead in the opening 5 minutes of the grand final. Instead, it took a sensational free kick by Merryweather's Jamie Ellis to open the scoring. The Phoenix hit back as W-League star Hannah Brewer chipped for Cassidy Davis, who made it 1-1. Merryweather responded with a long-range effort as Sophie Jones put the minor premiers back in front. Valentine had keeper Olivia Snedden to thank for only being down by 1 at half-time. Time and time again, she showed plenty of desperation to keep the Phoenix in the game. Her efforts paid off shortly after the break as Brewer produced a long-range shot of her own to tie things up. With the title at stake, Tyler Radovanovic and Imogen Tomasone put their bodies on the line, with both choosing to play on. Tomasone then played her part, denying Davis a chance to put Valentine in front. The Phoenix still had plenty of chances to win the trophy. Brewer missed an opportunity before Mary Jane Mason had two good looks at a winner. Against the run of play, Merriweather found a late goal. Jane McDonald laid on a perfect cross before Letitia Quinlan finished off the move. Merriweather becoming the first WPL team to win the minor and major premierships.
A long night of hoping and waiting for this trio finally over, and thankfully their story has a happy ending.
Didn't know what she was thinking. I was hoping it wasn't the worst, but no, it was awesome just to be in her hands again.
The workmates, all from the Hunter, set off on their trail bikes yesterday at 9 a.m, heading north of Stroud into dense bushland. But late in the afternoon, narrow, windy paths became unrecognisable in conditions like this, and the men had no mobile phones.
We got a little bit lost, and then we ran out of fuel, and it was late, so we just decided to make a fire and keep warm for the night.
A police search began last night and intensified this morning, together with the SES. Several trail bike riders also volunteered their time and local knowledge. A helicopter came close to them at 4 a.m, but not close enough.
It was so close, and we were trying to get the fire as big as we could, doing everything, but they obviously just didn't see us.
7.5 hours later, they were found near Sager Hill, which police credit to the help of the locals.
Look, I think the community, particularly in some of the areas around here, they bonded well. Recent flood issues, there's a strong community feeling in those areas, which obviously helped the police in finding them.
Back, tired, hungry and weary, but with their sense of humour intact.
I was just wondering how much of a flogging my missus was going to give me when I got home.
And incredibly thankful to those who worked through the day and night to find them.
Thanks for looking for us. Thanks to SES, thanks to the police, thanks for everybody coming out, friends, everybody.
Tell people where you're going and utilise some of the technology that's out there that can alert emergency services to your position.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
It was a late Sunday session this surfer will never forget. Small, clean waves, overcast, and something lurking in the water.
It's obvious that I'd seen a shark. As soon as I turned around, it was like seeing your worst nightmare sitting right behind you, and it was obvious. It was everything you think of when you see a shark. Typical head, body, dorsal fin, it was all there. It was just moving so slowly and majestically.
Paddy's instincts as a journalist kicked in, and he grabbed his GoPro camera to get a fix on what had just cruised by.
That's my career, that's what I do, I'm a journalist, so I wanted to document the situation, and which was unfolding in front of me, and that's just what I did. I pushed go and put it in the water, and I got a shot of it.
He then caught a wave to the beach to take stock of what had just happened before returning to the waves.
I just thought the best thing for me to do would be to paddle back out and just sort of clear the air with myself there and then, which I did. I paddled back out, caught a couple of waves. Probably a silly thing to do. When I got home, I told Dad I did that and he was filthy at me.
See the big long tail there? That's its head and its fins.
Shark expert Paul Grunsell says it was most likely a thresher, about 3 to 4 metres long. It's a species known for chasing bait fish close to shore, but not for attacking humans. Newcastle Council says there were no reported shark sightings over the weekend.
Meanwhile, the bodyboarder attacked at Port Macquarie on Saturday has thanked those who came to his aid. 38-year-old Dale Carr says he has no doubt their efforts saved his life. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
The Red Bull Air Race Series. It's fast, it's thrilling, and it could be headed our way. That is, as long as state tourism funding can be secured in time.
Destination New South Wales has asked for some verifiable data to back up the assumptions we've made in our funding submission to them, and we're just working on that right now.
The plan is to host the event over Lake Macquarie in 2016, attracting as many as 80,000 spectators from around the world. Organisers had hoped to lock in a date in March, but a delay with the funding application has seen that pushed back to October.
I think March is probably going to be very challenging for us in terms of logistics to stage the events.
There's been a bit of toing and froing on it, to be honest, and I think the government needs to give Destination New South Wales very clear direction.
Shadow Minister for the Hunter, Jody Harrison, says Red Bull has been more than willing to work around the delay. But there's always the risk the round will go elsewhere if funding isn't locked in soon.
They're willing to work with funders to do that. Now all we need is the state government to come through on what it says has been its commitment all the way through.
Destination New South Wales says it will welcome a resubmission. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
The response has been fantastic from the youth. They've been really energetic, really engaged. There's been a lot of people putting up some fantastic ideas.
Off the ferry and into Newcastle. The first leg of a walk that hits very close to home. Williamtown-based Corporal Andrew Summers is making his way to Sydney. He battled post-traumatic stress disorder and hopes by going public it will encourage other defence personnel to speak up and seek help.
Being a sufferer myself, and 3 years ago attempting suicide, it just breaks my heart to see the suicide rate still climbing.
Flanked by friends, he made it to Strzelecki Lookout, greeted by wife Tina and son Lachlan, while the drum corps played him through. Corporal Summers dedicating the walk to a mate.
Yeah, he was going to join me, but he's dealing with his trials of PTSD, and it's just too much for him.
He's raising money for Legacy, an organisation he says was there for him during his darkest days.
A man by the name of Warren Hanley when I got up here in 2009, and he knew I'd done my tours overseas, always checked in on me to see how I was going. At that stage I didn't know I had PTSD, I was just a mess.
He works with us every badge week, and he's really an outstanding young man.
The walkers are expected to arrive in Sydney on Friday. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
A dose of Melbourne-like weather greeted protectionist and trainer Chris Lees as the 6-year-old prepared for his first serious hit-out in 4 months. The long-distance specialist didn't disappoint over 1,200 metres.
he'll need another lap to really warm up. But he was competitive. Hugh Bowman rode him. He said he'd give him a lot better feel than he did when he rode him at a similar stage of his autumn preparation.
The stallion will now prepare for the Chelmsford Stakes at Randwick, but Lees admits the focus is still the race that stops a nation.
Realistically, that's the race he'll show up in, 2 mile. That's his pet distance, so hopefully we can get him back to somewhere where he was.
Stablemate Lucia Valentina ran 4th in Trial 3. The 5-year-old won't return to the Melbourne Cup this year. She'll be prepared for the Cox Plate instead.
She'll resume on the 5th of September in the Tramway Stakes, a race she won first up last year. And from what I've seen today, she's going in a similar manner.
2 of today's trials were due to be held on the recently re-turfed bee grass, but the rain pushed that plan back at least a week. The track will be used full-time by October, with the course proper to be ripped up after the Spring Carnival. Officials have also announced that former Miss Universe contestant Tegan Martin will be the Ladies' Day ambassador on September 19.
I don't get the opportunity to come home as much as I would like to at the moment. So this will be a fantastic opportunity at the end of my filming Celebrity Apprentice just to let my hair down and have a great time with my fellow Novocastrians.
A lot to look at and try and work out, if it's a boat speed issue or if it was a tactical issue. And at the end of the day, it's usually both. So, it's invaluable to be here and to compete. And we're really disappointed with the result.
In Port Stephens to talk TV. And while Malcolm Turnbull's visit was fleeting, there was no avoiding the government's greatest critic, the public.
All of the complaint calls to ACMA on issues surrounding digital television reception, over 50% of all complaints in Australia came from my electorate of Patterson.
To fix that, the Federal Communications Minister has agreed to contribute $470,000 towards improving transmission at Medowie, upgrading the existing tower at Gangan Hill and constructing a new one at Bulladila.
The media industry is under a lot of pressure at the moment and there are challenges in being able to afford these facilities.
There will be a new transmitter here around the Medowie region which will service not only Medowie, Saltash, but the Tillagary Peninsula, including Malabula, Tanulba, Lemon Tree Passage, even across towards Karua.
Since the switch to digital, around 25,000 homes have had trouble getting a decent TV signal. This upgrade should make it a whole lot clearer. Regional broadcasters will chip in more than $350,000. Next will be Stroud and Dungog, although money is yet to be allocated. And for residents there, Bob Baldwin has this promise.
They haven't heard the end of me yet.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
It'll go to commercial rollout beginning in a few weeks in September, and it will start in the Hunter and northern part of the Central Coast.
A fresh start for what was a large chunk of industrial land.
Probably around 600 to 700 blocks in the vicinity there of the new Bunnings and Bullaroo Main Street.
90 hectares of the former Pasminco site, to be known as Bundira Estate, officially went on the market today.
It's a site that a lot of people know about. It will attract national interest, we believe, which is a good thing. We want a good competition for the land from high-profile developers.
The first land sold, a 90-lot stage, was purchased by the Stevens Group, then snapped up quickly by home builders. It's believed this new section won't be any different.
We think entry-level blocks are probably going to be around the early 200,000 mark.
118 years ago, the Cockle Creek site emerged as the Hunter's first industrial development. It was initially used to refine zinc, but later became a major lead smelter.
Well, it's been 12 years since the Pasminco smelter closed, and since then there's been an extensive remediation process, incidentally the largest in Australia. And once the lots are sold and the bricks and mortar go up, there's a main street that's set to benefit.
The additional people in the area will mean the adjoining shopping centres and the main street in Bullaroo will have more people shopping there again.
Businesses can't wait for the extra foot traffic.
It's an older area, so it's going to be good to just bring a new vibe to the area, and like young families moving into the place.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
There's about $1 million worth of restoration work that needs to take place initially, and then the upkeep is around about $300,000 per year.
It's a bit of a gimmick putting all locks on to show that you love someone. That's really nice, but it's not really what this bridge is about.
Get the bolt cutters, cut it off. I'll do it right now.
A bustling kitchen that runs on goodwill and goodwill alone. Since 2003, Soul Cafe has been serving up hot meals to those in need.
All the food's donated. We're not a government-sponsored organisation, so the chef just looks at what's been donated and comes up with something to feed 130 people a day. It's quite a challenge.
Now, to lend a hand, some top chefs are teaming up with the organisation to raise much-needed funds. In October, a street food festival will be held in Newcastle CBD, led by the head chef of Rustica, Mark Hosey.
The feel we're going for is a Mediterranean village feast, so it's going to be a lot more down the middle of the table. I'll be doing the usual big paella pans full of paella.
It's going to be amazing food we've got 10 restaurants on board that are really excited about. We've got Tamburlaine Wines who are sponsoring the event. We've got some really good entertainment on the day as well.
And everything raised from the feast will go straight back to the Soul Cafe.
We actually don't have enough meat. We don't have enough protein at the moment, so that money will go into that and also supporting clients.
150 seats are available. To secure a spot, look up the Newcastle Street Food Festival on stickytickets.com.au. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Celebration and jubilation. The Knights enjoying an emphatic win against the odds.
I guess there's a lot of ups and downs in this job, and it's an up at the moment, which, you know, it's fantastic, it's emotional, it's you know, nerve-wracking, but you feel alive, that's for sure.
Looking back, it is one of the greatest, most satisfying wins of my career. It's after a really tough season, one that I'll never forget, that's for sure.
The message was to run direct and with purpose. The skipper led by example. The storm front loomed when Cameron Munster bounced through, but it was down the other end where the damage was done. Tarek Sims was determined to make Cooper Cronk's night one to forget. It was a fitting night for a tribute. Cronk, meanwhile, continued to contribute to the Knights' total, gifting Roberts an open passage to the try line. Craig Bellamy blasted his troops at the break, but it had little impact. Tyrone Roberts' kicking game was on point. The pressure too much for Melbourne to handle.
Gold Coast are obviously pretty excited because they're getting a player that, you know, if he does that every night and every week, that's what Tyrone can do.
An uncharacteristic mistake from Cameron Smith gifted the Knights a penalty to seal the win. Roberts closing out a man-of-the-match performance. Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News.
Couldn't have asked for a better finish to the year, and on the back of the win last night in Melbourne. Yeah, a great week and a great occasion to finish my last home game. You know, it's a great thrill for me to lead the guys out through the Guard of Honour, through our old boys, and to do it one last time on a, as I say, a special milestone for myself in front of the old boys. Well, it couldn't have worked out any better.
Win, lose or draw, the North Stars always cap off the regular season by giving something back to the community. A toy drive at the end of a record-breaking campaign, always a little sweeter. Canadian import Geordie Woodrick stepped up 2 days after setting new points and goal-scoring marks for the league in just his first season in Australia. The North Stars are hoping it won't be his last.
If everything kind of works out, and depending on how my season back in North America goes next year, I would love to be back here in April.
But first, there's a grand final to win. Newcastle hasn't claimed the Goodall Cup in 7 years and has lost the decider 4 times since then. It'll start its campaign with a semi-final clash against Canberra on Saturday.
We've been kind of 50-50 with them, so they have some big-time scorers there that are deadly all the time. So if we can shut those guys down, and hopefully our offensive guys can do their job.
We're a lot better on the big ice, which is what Melbourne has, so I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to run around them on that ice. They're a bit better in a smaller surface where they're a bit more of a physical team than we are, but yeah, I think we'll just get them tired if we keep playing our game, and we should be fine.
Homegrown player Matt Lindsay has experienced all of those grand final losses. He's confident Newcastle is the team to beat in 2015, thanks to quality imports and a new coach.
Having Andrew Petrie as well has been a huge culture change for us, which is what we needed. And he's doing a great job, and hopefully he'll have the job next year as well, and we just keep going.
I love it. Especially going back to my first show, the first time I got out under those lights, I just fell in love with it. I couldn't be anywhere else. I'm born to do this.
They stayed in the safety of the den for the whole first month of life,
when they're a month old, Mum's going to bring them out on display. We're going to discover the world's a little bit bigger than we thought it was.
It's scenes like these authorities are desperate to stop. The number of lives lost on Hunter roads this year is growing at an alarming rate, affecting not only a widening section of the community, but also police.
We've had to engage some services to assist our police, many of whom in a short period of time have gone to the multiple fatalities involving young people, and it takes a toll on police.
Over the next 4 months, officers will be cracking down on those putting themselves and others at risk through what's known as Operation Silverstone. And police won't just be monitoring from the road. They'll also have an eye in the sky. And today, NBN News was given a look at how Pol Air will assist.
They will be able to take images of the vehicles involved and also communicate to vehicles down on the actual road that they can conduct vehicle stops.
It coincides with the launch of Operation Saturation, which is tasked with tackling the recent spike in the state's road toll. 15 lives have been lost every fortnight since the end of April. Many of those mature riders on high-powered motorcycles.
Unfortunately, they're not driving at appropriate speeds for the roads that they're travelling on, and they're losing control, leaving the roadway, colliding with roadside objects. And unfortunately, it's a fatal combination.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
It was a breakfast held to address the business community on Urban Growth's vision for Newcastle.
The business community wanted a bit of an update on where we're heading. They wanted to hear from the Minister that government was committed to moving forward.
With 10,000 more people expected to be working in Newcastle by 2036, catering for such an increase was front and centre. The Hunter Business Chamber says positivity is growing.
Are there a range of stakeholders and organisations involved that have the very, very best interests of this city at heart? Absolutely, yes, there is.
The light rail system was also on the agenda, although the detail is still light on. We did learn the vehicles will be 23 metres in length with a capacity to hold 120 people and a maximum speed of 60 kilometres per hour.
Simon Hussey is the project director for the Newcastle light rail system, but unfortunately my questions for him went unanswered because he told me he didn't want to answer them. One of those questions was how the light rail system would impact on the Newcastle Court and University precincts. That answer was left for the Minister.
They're issues that are going to have to be managed through the construction phase. But again, the quicker that infrastructure is delivered, the less disruption there's going to be.
Despite no formal offer as yet, there's mounting speculation the Baird government will purchase the store building in Hunter Street West to allow an expansion of plans for the Wickham interchange right next door.
This is something the government is actively looking at. It's a great opportunity, and we'd be blind not to see that opportunity.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
At Darley's Woodland Stud, it's falling season, their busiest. But there's added stress after the nearby Drayton South Mine extension was again recommended for approval.
What it shows to us is that nothing seems to stand in the way of mining in the state of New South Wales.
It's the third time the Planning Department has backed the extension southwest of Muswellbrook. It was rejected twice at the final hurdle, the Planning Assessment Commission, before Anglo American resubmitted a scaled-down version.
So we have doubled the buffer zone between us and the operational areas of the horse studs, so there will be no impacts, whether they be visual or noise or dust.
The Planning Department found that regardless of the setbacks imposed on the mining operations, there would still be some impacts, but that it does not consider them significant enough to cause thoroughbred operations to leave the region. Breeders claim the state has effectively shut the gate on a $5 billion industry.
An impact of a open cut mine with all the effects of that within 1 kilometre of our boundary is unacceptable.
There's 500 jobs on the line, there's $60 million worth of royalties and taxes that are on the line for the New South Wales Government.
The pack will hold its final hearing next month. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
I don't know how many clubs could afford him at the moment. He's one of those guys at the top of his game, and but yeah, it's probably somewhere here at the Knights we wouldn't be able to look at.
They say winning is infectious. Danny Badiris has certainly caught the bug.
The feeling and the experience that you do have, it's been fantastic. I've just really enjoyed the battles that we're facing at the moment, and to do that week in, week out, it would be pretty good fun.
It was initially pitched as a 6-week stint, an opportunity for Badiris to gain experience and a chance for players to learn from a club legend before a new regime took hold.
Well, yeah, it was always about 6 weeks. I'm 4 weeks into that. It's been enjoyable. I'm off on the back of 2 wins, and yeah, you start to think out loud a little bit. But it's, I don't know, the structures and everything that's put in place, not only for me here at work, but just in my home life. No, that has to be all sorted before I'd even contemplate it. Yeah.
Brad Fittler was in a similar position in 2007. He lasted 2 years at the Roosters before pursuing other options.
I have, yeah. I've spoken to Freddie, and yeah, there's no doubt. There's a lot goes into the organisation from, like I've said, from top to bottom, and you've got to be across all those areas, and I wouldn't say I am at the moment.
On National Meals on Wheels Day, the club's CEO was busy delivering the goods, but tight-lipped on the coaching situation.
We're working through the process. I'm sure we'll get some advice this morning on who should be our head coach, and Danny's doing a wonderful job.
Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News.
Preparing for a 6,000-point qualifying series event in Spain, Philippa Anderson couldn't have asked for better surf at home. The contest is likely to determine her fate for 2016. She'll need to go close to winning to reach the World Tour.
a lot of the big girls are going to be there, so it's going to be tough. But yeah, I've surfed Pantene, which is where it's at in Spain I didn't go last year, but before that I went the last 3 years, so I know the area.
Anderson sits in 18th on the QS rankings, following a 9th in California and a frustrating early knockout in El Salvador.
Like feeling well, and boards are good, and I wanted to do well, but yeah, the ocean just went flat, so that was nothing much I could have done there.
The trip to Europe was only made possible by the crowdfunding campaign Anderson and her manager set up last month. The campaign wraps up on Friday, but so far $18,000 in donations have come from all over the world, inspiring Philippa to push on.
I'll be pretty devastated if I don't qualify this year. Definitely with my third and my results this year, and the support that I've gotten, it's fueled my fire. And yeah, next year I'll give another shot.
Newcastle, home to the largest coal port in the world, but the local council's support for that very industry is being questioned. It's passed a motion, 6 votes to 5, that will see it preference environmentally responsible investments over fossil fuel ones, even those involving the big banks, where the majority of council's $270 million investment portfolio currently rests. It sparked outrage in Liberal and Labor ranks.
That means we are to punish any bank that dares to support the biggest economic driver in our city. And that is silly, it is stupid, and it is dangerous.
It's time to grow up, it's time to be mature and look at the bigger interest. And what they should also remember is a lot of those ratepayers in Newcastle work in the mining industry or the mining support industry, and that's where they get their income to pay for the rates.
Federal Labor's Man in Coal Country has labelled the decision misguided, saying councillors shouldn't be making decisions about where ratepayer cash is invested, and labelling it a slap in the face for all who work and rely on the industry. Sentiments the business community agrees with.
We would like to see a more positive conversation, and we would like to see a deeper level of understanding the importance of the industry coming out of council.
But the Lord Mayor says the motion makes no direct reference to the coal industry.
I think that it is been really misrepresented in the local media and the national media. It is more about making sure we have strong investments and a diversified economic base in this region.
And then there's the financial concerns. The motion states that council will only invest when the rate of return is favourable compared to other investments on offer at the time. But Liberal councillors fear a lower rate could be accepted and ultimately come back on the ratepayer.
Absolutely not. It's the first criteria is that it is a financially sound investment with a financially sound company.
Late today, the Newcastle Trades Hall released a statement. It didn't condemn the move, stating it supports alternative investment that generates employment opportunities. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Behind closed doors in a similar situation to 3 years ago. Newcastle Herald staff are facing another round of job cuts, and across Fairfax's Hunter papers, 69 full-time staff could soon be out of work. What's angered employees is while they were being informed of the changes by management, details were made public online.
Those sorts of things do rankle and they just make a difficult situation even harder.
Before the axe fell in 2012, the Herald had 120 editorial staff. Now it's facing the possibility of having that reduced to just 24. Today, employees agreed to walk off the job, claiming the cuts will dramatically compromise the quality of journalism.
The Newcastle Herald has generated a Royal Commission into child abuse. Our work on aspects of the coal industry has been award-winning. I think we do our job very well, and so it's very hard to be told that, unfortunately, even though you're doing your job well, that it's not paying commercially.
Under the proposed changes, the Maitland Mercury would go from 5 to 3 days a week, and the Singleton Argus would become a weekly. It's well known the internet age has forced big changes on newspapers. Some have charged for online content, but that's not the case at the Herald, and staff are asking management to consider all possibilities.
And yes, the old model is broken, management's correct. But just because something is wrong doesn't mean that the solution they've given you is the only solution. And we'll be working very hard over the next few weeks to save as many jobs as we can and convince them that we can make it work in a slightly different way to what they've presented to us now.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
A one-stop shop for learning about safe agricultural practices.
They're armed with a lot more knowledge now about what the obligations that they have for themselves, their workers and their families, and they're now coming to us and asking for support.
And it wasn't just old hands learning new work methods.
A lot of our original idea was to start with the high school children, and as they go through into life, they've got safety in the back of their mind all the time.
Occupational health and safety has changed farming in many ways, whether it's using light or heavy machinery, livestock practices, or even quad biking. The name of the game is coming home safely.
They're a machine that need to be used with a lot of caution, basically. People take them for granted. They think they're toys. They're not toys.
Australian Bureau of Statistics figures show people living in rural and regional areas are at an increased risk of suicide. Today, mental health specialists were on hand to offer advice.
Farmers are also often very isolated. They're often working alone, and then you have perhaps some level of natural disasters, and there are so many risks involved in farming that I think it puts a lot of pressure on farmers.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Officially semi-retired, Mike Rabbit is as busy as ever.
Hello everyone, I'm Mike Rabbit.
While no longer tied to the news desk, he's still involved and passionate about sport.
Still doing some commentary and loving the rugby league commentary and those sort of things. I couldn't think of anything worse. If you're going to lose a sense, the one that I'd hate to lose is sight.
He had to face that fear recently when diagnosed with a form of macular disease.
Just a little bit of shading on the right eye, and every now and then I had to blink to just try and correct the vision. And I thought, well, maybe there is something wrong here, so I thought I'd go and get a check.
In Mike's case, a membrane was causing the issue with his macula. A small procedure, and he's on the road to recovery. In other, more common forms of the disease, there are few warning signs.
Macular degeneration, it affects 1 in 7 Australians over the age of 50. So certainly, if you're over the age of 50, you need to get assessed. And diabetics, they're obviously at risk of diabetic macular disease, so they should also be assessed.
The Macular Disease Foundation is promoting awareness through a photographic competition called See My World, a reminder to value our vision. Mike now holds every snapshot dear.
To not be able to see that, and the results of your travels or your special birthday parties or your grandkids growing up, I think would be, again, an absolute travesty if you couldn't do that from the fact that you haven't gone and sought to seek help when you needed help.
It's good for me, to secure my future here and be around the club for next year, so I'm happy about it.
I've been here for a while now. The club's been really good to me, and it was, as you said, an easy decision to stay.
Talent stays at the Knights for as long as they can, and Danny Levi, Jack Cogger are two important players in that plan and in those key positions at hooker and halfback.
Lambton controlled large portions of the first leg, but still lost 2-1.
We had a couple of chances of Madge at the back post, which are normally his bread and butter, chest and volley. That's his signature dish, but he just didn't come off for us on the weekend. And lucky to get an away goal because that makes all the world of difference for us. 2-0 would have been a very tough task to come back from.
Needing a win to earn the chance to defend their NPL crown, the Jaffers will start with a more attacking formation.
There might be one or two changes. We're not going to panic at the start. If we can get one goal, we're back in the ascendancy then. The tide can change very quickly.
Teenager Tom Davies has been a welcome addition to the Olympic squad since returning from a knee injury. The defender is hoping to extend his first trip to the finals by beating Lambton again.
It's good to finally get a win over him on the weekend. That's the first time we beat him in 3 years, so hopefully we can do a good job again this weekend.
Meanwhile, Valentine is looking to celebrate earning a return to the NPL by winning the First Division decider.
The main goal was promotion, so we have done that, and but obviously you don't want to lose a grand final, you always want to win one, so we're fired up and we're ready to go.
But Wallsend wants to cap off its comeback to the second tier by handing the Phoenix a second straight grand final loss.
The last couple of weeks has probably been the first time we've had a full squad to choose from, which is really good, and super confident for the grand final.
Valentine has won both of its clashes with Wallsend this season.
Give us a prediction for the result on the weekend.
Wallsend 3-0.
Oh, I'm a goalkeeper, so I won't let any in. I'd say 2-0 to Valle.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Some well-earned rest and relaxation in your hometown never gets old.
You always love coming home, and I've always loved coming back to Newcastle wherever I am, and whether I'm overseas or on the Gold Coast, I always love coming back to Newcastle.
Thomas Fraser Holmes has returned from Russia with a bronze medal and plenty of confidence.
There's some positive signs leading for me for the next 12 months, and my 200 free time's coming down a lot, so I'm just looking forward to getting back in the pool.
He's happy, but knows he could have had more. His time in the 200-metre freestyle relay would have earned him a medal in the individual event. Watching from the stands for that hurt, but it's also what drives him.
You got to be in it to win it, and unfortunately I didn't do the job at our nationals in April, so I didn't get to swim that event, and that's something that definitely motivates me.
It's now less than 12 months until the Rio Games. The men's 200-metre freestyle relay presents a strong medal chance, but Fraser Holmes wants individual glory.
That's probably my biggest goal the next 6 months is to see how far I can push the envelope and really test myself. It takes a special person, a special athlete to get everything right, to do those things and to come out on top.